We're going to finish up our chapter today of Ramona. Do you remember the chapter we were reading? It's called The Day Things Went Wrong. And so far, Ramona has had a so-so day, right? First, she was late for school because she didn't know quite how to tell time. But then she lost her tooth at school, which was really exciting. So that was a good thing. So I wonder what else is going to happen in this chapter. I wonder if something else bad might occur. Let's find out. Before the class started seat work, Ramona went to her teacher with her precious bloody tooth and asked, "Would you keep this for me?" Ramona wanted to be sure she did not lose her tooth because she needed it for bait to catch the tooth fairy. She planned to pile a lot of clattery things like saucepans and pie tins and old broken toys beside her bed so that the tooth fairy would trip and it would wake her up. Miss Binny smiled as she opened a drawer of her desk. "Your first tooth, of course I'll keep it safe for you so you can take it home to the tooth fairy. You are a brave girl." Ramona loved Miss Binny for understanding. She loved Miss Binny for not being cross when she was late for school. She loved Miss Binny for telling her she was a brave girl. Ramona was so happy that the morning went quickly. Seat work was unusually interesting. The kindergartners now had sheets of paper, 3 to a row, printed in purple ink. One row showed a top, a girl, and a toe. And the kindergarten was supposed to circle the top and the toe because they began with T, and cross out the girl because girl began with a different sound. Ramona dearly loved to circle and cross out and was sorry when recess came. "Want to see where my tooth was?" Ramona asked Eric J. when the class had finished with tea for the day and had gone out to the playground. She opened her mouth and pulled down her lower lip. Eric J. was filled with admiration. "Where your tooth was, it's all bloody," he told her. Oh, the glory of losing a tooth. Ramona ran over to Susan. "Want to see where my tooth was?" she asked. "No," said Susan, "and I'm glad you were late because I got to open the door my very first day as a door monitor." Ramona was indignant that Susan had refused to admire her bloody hole. No one else had bravely lost a tooth at kindergarten. Ramona seized one of Susan's curls and, careful not to stretch it hard enough to hurt Susan, she stretched it out and let it spring back. "Boing," she said. And she ran off, circling the jungle gym and coming back to Susan, who was about to climb the steps to the traveling bars, and she stretched out another curl and she yelled, "Boing!" "Ramona Quimby," shrieked Susan, "you stop boinging me." Ramona was filled with the glory of losing her first tooth and the love for her teacher. Miss Binny had said she was brave. This day was the most wonderful day in the world. The sun shone, the sky was blue, and Miss Binny loved her. Ramona flung out her arms and circled around the jungle gym once more on feet light with joy. She swooped toward Susan, stretched out a curl, and uttered a long, drawn-out "Boing!" "Miss Binny," cried Susan on the verge of tears, "Ramona is boinging me, and I bet she was the witch who boinged me at the Halloween parade." "Tattletale," thought Ramona scornfully, as she circled the jungle gym on feet of joy. "Circle, Ramona. Cross out Susan." "Ramona," said Miss Binny, as Ramona flew past, "come here. I want to talk to you." Uh-oh, do you think Ramona's going to get in trouble? Ramona turned back and looked expectantly at her teacher. "Ramona, you must stop pulling Susan's hair," said Miss Binny. "Yes, Miss Binny," said Ramona, and skipped off to the traveling bars. Ramona intended to stop pulling Susan's curls. She truly did, but unfortunately Susan would not cooperate. When recess was over and the class was filing back into the room, Susan turned to Ramona and said, "You are a big pest." Susan could not have chosen a word that Ramona would resent more. Beezus was always saying she was a pest. The big boys and girls on Ramona's street called her a pest. But Ramona did not consider herself a pest. People who called her a pest did not understand that a littler person sometimes had to be a little bit noisier and a little bit more stubborn in order to get noticed at all. Ramona had to put up with being called a pest by older boys and girls, but she did not have to put up with being called a pest by a girl her own age. "I am not a pest," said Ramona indignantly, and to get even, she stretched one of Susan's curls out and she whispered, "Boing." Ramona's luck was bad, however, for Miss Spinney happened to be watching. "Come here, Ramona," said her teacher. Ramona had a terrible feeling that this time Miss Spinney was not going to understand. "Ramona, I am very disappointed in you," said Miss Spinney, and her voice was serious. Ramona had never seen her teacher look so serious. "But Susan called me a pest," she said in a small voice. "That is no excuse for pulling hair," said Miss Spinney. "And I told you to stop pulling Susan's hair, and I meant it. If you cannot stop pulling Susan's hair, you will have to go home and stay there until you can." Ramona was shocked. Miss Spinney did not love her anymore. The class was suddenly quiet, and Ramona could almost feel their stares against her back as she stood there looking at the floor. "Do you think you can stop pulling Susan's hair?" asked Miss Spinney. Ramona thought, could she really stop pulling Susan's curls? She thought about those thick, springy locks that were so tempting. She thought about Susan, who always acted big. In kindergarten, there was no worse crime than acting big. In the eyes of the children, acting big was worse than being a pest. Ramona finally looked up at Miss Spinney and gave her an honest answer. "No," she said, "I don't think I can." Miss Spinney looked a little bit surprised. "Very well, Ramona, you will have to go home, and you'll have to stay there until you can make up your mind to stop pulling Susan's curls." "Now?" asked Ramona in a small voice. "You may go sit outside on the bench until it's time to go home," said Miss Spinney. "I am sorry, Ramona, but we cannot have a hair puller in our kindergarten." No one said a word as Ramona walked out of the kindergarten and sat down on the bench. The little children next door stared at her through the fence, and the workmen across the street looked at her in amusement. Ramona gave a long, shuddering sigh, but she managed to hold back the tears. Nobody was going to see Ramona Quimby acting like a baby. "That girl was bad again," Ramona heard a 4-year-old next door to say to her little sister. And when the bell rang, Miss Spinney opened the door to see her class out and said to Ramona, "I hope you will decide to stop pulling Susan's hair so you can come back to kindergarten." Ramona did not answer. Her feet no longer felt light with joy. They carried her slowly home. She could never go to kindergarten again because Miss Spinney did not love her. She would never get to show and tell or play great duck again, and she wouldn't get to work on the paper turkey Miss Spinney was going to teach the class to make for Thanksgiving. Ramona sniffed and wiped her eyes on the sleeve of her sweater. She did love kindergarten, but it was all over now. Cross out, Ramona! Not until she was halfway home did Ramona remember her precious tooth was still in Miss Spinney's desk. Wow, the day did take a bad turn, didn't it? Poor Ramona. Do you think Miss Spinney really doesn't love her anymore? Or do you think she's just not happy with the way Ramona was acting towards Susan? I don't think teachers or moms or dads stop loving kids when they're unhappy with how they're acting, right? Sometimes you can be upset with someone, but of course you still keep loving them. I bet you can relate to that. Have you ever been really angry at a brother or sister? But then you don't stop really loving them deep down in your heart, right? So I think Miss Spinney does still love Ramona. And hopefully Ramona will decide to try again and not pull Susan's hair and go back to kindergarten and get her tooth, right? We'll find out next time, but guess what the next chapter is called? Kindergarten Dropout. Oh no, I hope Ramona's not dropping out of kindergarten for good. We'll find out next time. Bye for now.